Hey everyone, Sky here to discuss the 2009 version of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, starring Michael Nyqvist, Noomi Rapace, Lena Andre, and Peter Anderson, and directed by Niels Arden Oplev. Now, I've heard of this movie, and I know it's in Swedish, but I'm gonna just confess this now. Even though I did like a couple of Guillermo del Toro's Spanish-made movies, but it's kind of hard for me to read subtitles at times, so I'm just going to come off easy and say I'm not a big fan of subtitled movies because those things, they talk too fast to the point where I just can't read it anymore. But let's see if I can keep up. Let's get into this. We open with Henrik Vanger opening a package of a photo of missing daughter Harriet, which I thought was a good opening to get the plot going, and we move to disgraced journalist Mikael Blomkvist, played by Michael Nyqvist, who I've reviewed before in, and I'll be reviewing him again in, when I get to that series next year. But I do like the way his arc goes from being a disgraced journalist to an innocent man by the end of the film. Hacker Lisbeth Salander, played by Noomi Rapace, another actress I've reviewed before in, and we'll get to at some point with, and she's a character I really enjoy watching because she's tough and has been tortured all her life. And unlike Prometheus, she's someone I like to watch here, especially when she's torturing a man who keeps an eye on her money and rapes her when I get to that later on. Mikael gets a call on Christmas Day by Henrik Vanger, who is looking for his daughter Harriet, which I brought up earlier, for 40 years. And the problem I have with that 40 years later, would she be dead or changed but her name like she didn't want to be found? Like, couldn't he just let her go and the whole situation go? It doesn't make any sense to me. Elizabeth gets a new bodyguard of her money named Nils Bjurman, played by Peter Anderson, who I've seen a couple of times in my life in, but I don't mind the actor, but the character is a despicable pig when he makes Elizabeth sucking his dick, slaps her and rapes her, and on. I honestly did not like the fucking character because when Lisbeth wants money, he just makes her tortured until later in the film when she gets him back and frames him. Lisbeth is a badass here when she does frame him and versus beating up some punks in a train station and going nuts on them. That was pretty cool. Mikael begins investigating a case for the Vanger daughters searching case, and the pacing of those scenes starts off very slowly, but what can I say? It's a long movie. The theatrical cut is 2.5 hours, and the extended cut is 3 hours long. So either way, it's a fucking long movie. Lisbeth gets Nils Bjurman naked and tortures him with a thick needle and writes, "I'm a sadist pig and a rapist," and I love that shot when it's presented with vengeance. The cinematography is groundbreakingly fantastic, especially in Sweden, despite how hard it is to read the subtitles because it's a Swedish film. It's usually very hard for me to watch the top of the screen if the movie is subtitled, but it's a fantastic looking movie, I'll give it that. Mikael asks Elizabeth to help him with the case in an hour and a half into the movie, if you watch the extended cut, but I like how they began to work together at this point in the movie. While Lisbeth helps Mikael find Harriet, I just found myself bored half to death, and I think it's the extended cut's fault. I could be wrong. Like, I want to like this movie, but the problem I'm having with it, I'm just bored. Despite how much I like and care about Mikael and Lisbeth, But those are the only two characters I can connect with, and I want to succeed by the end of the movie, but the other characters, I just can't get behind in liking them as much. Some idiot, we don't know who it is, but he shoots Mikhail on the side of his head, and Mikhail calls the cops, and like Lisbeth told him, they're not going to do shit about it, who the shooter is, and to think it was a hunting accident. Now, am I the only one thinking the cops can't do anything with this case? Because I don't think they can. That was a problem when we get the movie going. And I'm sorry, cops, but yeah, in the movies you can't do anything. What do you want me to say? Lisbeth finds out Gottfried Vanger is the reason Harriet runs away, not dead, from home, and never came back. So Mikhail gets captured by Gottfried, while Lisbeth tries to tell Mikhail about Gottfried, and Lisbeth comes in to save his ass. And after that turn of events, they find Harriet in a different country with a different life and comes back home in Sweden, and Mikhail goes back home with his wife and comes back to work as a journalist. Lisbeth was going to surprise Mikhail until she sees him with his wife, Erica, and walks away. Kind of tragic of an ending, but that's, I believe, how the book ended. I also should bring up Lisbeth visits her mom, who has Alzheimer's, and haven't seen in years. Again, too tragic of an ending for this movie, in my opinion. Now it's time for the rating. And I'll give this movie a 4.8 out of 10. And I'm sorry for those of you fans out there. I just can't read subtitles in a movie very well. This was at times for me very hard to watch, despite how much I liked the two main characters, Lisbeth and Mikhail. But this unfortunately was boring with good cinematography, but the story went downhill from good to bad. And I'm sorry for the people who's fans of the Swedish trilogy, but I kind of didn't like this movie. And I have hopes for the remake, despite how I haven't seen it in a while. And I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and next week I will be back with the girl who played with fire. And until next time, goodbye.